Hello everyone, this is Gian. I'm back with another video. So I hope everyone is doing well today. It's a nice sunny spring day here in New York City. I personally wish that they would turn down the heat a little bit in my apartment. See, I need it to be nice and cold to feel comfortable. Hot-tempered, hot-blooded and all as I am. I run pretty warm, always have. And they keep the heat on despite the temperatures being in the 50s. And well, it makes me quite uncomfortable. But anyhow, and keep in mind, I still have like two fans that I usually keep running in an air conditioner. It's still not enough. Like I said, I need an ice box. But anyway, enough about me and my self-cooling problems, right? I wanted to talk about uh, this question. I have a question. Or rather, there have been many questions throughout history. A few, such as, where's Waldo? Where is Waldo? Where's Waldo? Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Who forgot to... I told myself I wouldn't laugh and I couldn't help it. Who forgot to invite Chun-Li to the Mortal Kombat? And now I have a question to ask, actually, and it's related to Mortal Kombat. Where's Liu Kang? Now, you may be wondering what exactly I mean by this, because if you're a long-time viewer of my channel, you're well aware of the fact that I am a bit of a Mortal Kombat historian, enthusiast. I have been playing this series since, well, officially since 1995 when MK3 came out, which means I would have been 10 years old. But I go all the way back. This is 92, and this, make sure it gets in there, is 1994. So as we all know, I go way, way, way back, right? This series is essentially, 29 years old this year, so it's next year it'll be 30 years old. So this might be not a question for me of all people to be asking, right? Where is Liu Kang when I've quite literally grown up with the series, right? And its various cartoons and movies and reboots and all this other stuff. Well, the reason I ask this question is because of this. This tweet from the Mortal Kombat movie Twitter, right, that was in my feed a few minutes ago. It says, choose your fighter. Cole Young, Sonya Blade, Jax Briggs, Scorpion, Subzero, Shang Tsung, Melina, Cabal, Mortal Kombat. In theaters and streaming on HBO April 16th, hashtag Mortal Kombat movie. And then we see this promotional image here. Now, just for my own amusement and enjoyment, I'm going to try to rattle off the characters, or the first 10 original characters featured in the first game. You have Kano, Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Sonya, Johnny Cage, Raiden, Reptile because he's the secret character. You have Goro as the sub-boss, and then finally Shang Tsung is the final boss. So there we go, 10. That should be 10 characters. Y'all can check me on that. But I do believe those were the first 10 characters featured in the very, very first game, oh so many years ago. 30 years ago now, or very close to 30 years ago. Right, so let's look at this promotional image, right? So here we are. Here's the promotional image. Now, I want to be clear. I want to be clear here. I understand that the purpose of this image is to serve as promotional material. I understand that not every character in the film can be put on the poster, can be represented, and I certainly understand that, especially over the 30 years Mortal Kombat has existed, that not every character can be featured or included in any Mortal Kombat medium, whether it be all the fighting games or the TV shows or comics or anything like that, right? Some characters are going to become very popular and be featured on a regular basis because of fan demand, and some characters are not. I understand that. In fact, I was just checking the Mortal Kombat wiki, and according to the wiki, there are 97, so just under 100 characters across the Mortal Kombat franchise over the years. Pretty impressive, right? Nearly 100 characters over a fighting game franchise that has been around for the past 30 years, aka the majority of my life. Excuse me. So, I want to be clear. I understand that there are always going to be limitations of a fashion. I get that. But at the same time, this is promotional material, and promotional material is meant to promote. It's meant to get you interested, which means that it's going to typically highlight, right, your main villains, your main heroes, and they're usually going to be characters you are familiar with. So let's look at this, right? For example, the most prominent image right in the center is that division, right, between Scorpion and Subzero, which makes sense, right? Given that their rivalry has been, at least up until recently, right? Their rivalry is iconic and famous and infamous, not just in the series, but in fighting games in general. Right? It's like one of the premier rivalries in video games ever is the long-standing rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Especially in this case because this version of Sub-Zero, as you can see, is meant to be the bad guy, right? You have Shang Tsung, which I think is a nice look for Shang. It's supposed to be Shang Tsung and Melina. I repeat, it's a bad look to have the violent savage played by a black woman. I'm just saying. And then you have Cabal, right? So that's obviously your bad guy team, right? Which makes sense given that this version of Sub Zero is meant to be the Sub Zero that was featured in the very first Mortal Kombat game, right? Bihan, the one who eventually became Noob Saibot, right? So this is not MK2 Sub Zero, good guy Sub Zero, the one that most people think of and associate the term and the name Sub Zero with. It's not that one, it's the original one from the very first game. The one who would eventually become Noob Saibot. So fine, I understand that. Those two having a rivalry makes perfect sense, right? Especially if you're familiar with the Mortal Kombat lore, right? And then on the good guy side, right, you have Scorpion, which I find a bit humorous because up until fairly recently, right, in the series, again spanning 30 years, Scorpion most of the time is a wild card, right? He's very much an anti-hero, right? He's Ed Boon's favorite, which is why Ed is always doing the "get over here, come here," right? Ed's the one doing that, right? Because he's always like Scorpion, because Scorpion, is very much a product of his time, right? Inspired by films such as The Wraith and Spawn, the Spawn comic, right? From Image Comics. So he's always been, for a very long time, that wild card, that anti hero character who is really out for his own sake, right? He'll work with the good guys, he'll work with the bad guys, just so long as he can get his revenge, originally against Sub Zero, later on against Quan Chi, once he learned the truth of how his family and his ninja clan was destroyed, right? But I just find it interesting that he's sort of leading the good guys, but he didn't become a solid good guy probably up until about what Mortal Kombat 11. But anyway, behind them, or rather behind him, I should say, you have Jax. Okay, he's always been firmly a good guy. Even his much maligned and very controversial ending in Mortal Kombat 11 still solidifies him as a good guy. He's trying to do the what he thinks is the right thing. It's just that, in my opinion, again, I've made my feelings known about that ending. I have an old video about that, but yeah, even with that very maligned ending, it still shows that Jax fundamentally is a good person, right? I just think that his ending has him go about things very much the wrong way. But again, that's just me and a bunch of other people. But again, it's just me. But I understand that Jax has always been, a firmly on the good guy side. Same with Sonya back here, right? Firmly on the good guy side from the very first game. She's always been, about pursuing Kano and bringing down the Black Dragon and justice and all this other stuff. So firmly a good guy. Okay. Then we have this unknown person, Cole Young, who's covered in some sort of scales or armor or tattoos or something. I don't know. I don't much care. I don't understand why this Cole character is even necessary. Uh, you have Johnny Cage, who's, again, an OG iconic character, and who I think's character was perfected in Mortal Kombat 11. For all of my criticisms of MK11, I'll say they got Johnny, both young Johnny and older Johnny, absolutely right. I will give credit where credit is due. And with a franchise that has almost 100 characters in 30 years, if you wanted to use a character that is maybe not as popular and not as well known, you could have chosen Li Mei. You could have chosen Ermac. You could have chosen Kenshi or Takeda, whatever the hell how you say his name is, right? So many other characters that you could have brought in. You could have brought in Curtis Stryker, right? So many characters you could have brought in that maybe are not as well known to the general populace, right? Aren't as iconic, but you decide to come up with this dude that especially no Mortal Kombat fan knows or cares about, and you don't have Johnny, right? At least to our knowledge, right? Don't know what the actual film is going to show, but nothing has shown Johnny Cage yet, right? The iconic comic relief character, and he's not, at least from what we know, he's not in the film. And also, again, this is why I'm making this video. Where is Liu Kang? Why isn't Liu Kang in this poster? You have a perfect slot. You can put Liu right behind Scorpion. I think Liu should always be at the forefront, given that he is the premier hero lead character of the series. He always has been and always will be. But if you want to promote the whole Scorpion and Subzero rivalry, okay, go ahead. But you could put Liu, right, who's also a fire elemental, right, the dragon and all that. You could put Liu right behind Scorpion, then you could have Jax, and then you could have Sonya. So you would still have, your three people uh, behind Scorpion, right? Scorpion's army versus Sub-Zero's army, right? The good guy team versus the bad guy team, and all that. But instead, you give this slot to this unknown character that fans did not ask for. I get it. Cole's supposed to be sort of like the audience surrogate, the audience perspective character. Problem is that for a franchise that has nearly 100 characters over a 30-year period, you don't need to create someone new. You just need to use somebody who is not as well known, not as popular. Or just go with your original 7 that everybody already knows. Right? So I just wonder about that. Why in a franchise that is particularly noted, to be fair, especially for an American game company, that is noted for its Asian representation, which is still represented here, to be fair. You have Shang, you have Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and you have Liu in the film, and you have Kung Lao, so they're certainly not skimping on the Asian representation or on the diversity in general, right? You have, again, I disagree with the casting of Sissy Stringer, and I explained why in a different video, but you have her, you have Jax, you have Sonya, right? You have other characters no doubt will be in the film, so there's no issue on the diversity front. I want to be clear. That's not my issue, that's not my question. My question is, why is the premier Asian lead of the series, right? Why is the literal hero of the story not being featured in the new reboot movie, right? They promoted Robin Shou as Liu Kang all over the place back when the 95 film came out, right? And again, throughout 30 years in all these movies and TV shows and video games, Liu's always been the lead premier character. Always. He's the hero of Mortal Kombat. He always has been. He always will be. He is the default hero. He is the good guy, right? He is the good guy of good guys, right? He's the somewhat peaceful. It's a Mortal Kombat game, right? But he's the peaceful Shaolin monk who only fights because he has to, right? So why isn't he being featured on this poster? We know he's in the film. He's in the film. Kung Lao is in the film, right? But I find it interesting that Liu effing Kang is not in the poster to promote the video game series that he has always been the lead and for a very long time been the face of. Not to discount the popularity of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. They've always been incredibly popular. But Liu's always been the guy. Even if you look at images of like old school like ar- arcade machines from like way back in the day, you'll see that Liu's image is always there, right? Who you promote, who you literally put on the poster or on the arcade machine or in the box art is important. There is a narrative here, right? It's this image and the way it was composed with the fire and the ice and the good and the bad and all that. There's a reason behind it. It's not just happenstance, which means that, in my opinion, there is a reason why they left Liu freaking Kang off the poster of the video game he's been the frontman for damn near 30 years, for just about 30 years. And I do think that is quite interesting. To quote Fourth Snake, right? Or as he calls himself, Nitpick Jesus, the most honest a-hole on YouTube, right? As Fourth Snake says, Liu Kang not being on here is very telling. I agree with you, Fourth Snake. I agree with you completely. That it's very telling that the lead character of the game is not being featured in, at least on the poster. I'm not gonna say it's not in the movie. That would be untrue. But that he is not being featured in the poster. He's being deliberately left off the poster. But who gets, even if it is in the background of the good guys team, who gets a roster spot, right? Who gets a spot on the poster? The made up character that no one asked for. Just curious. And Curiouser. Bit of an odd choice in my opinion. Not what I would go with. But then again, that's just me. What do I know? I just hail from the old school. So what do I know? But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.